everybody. This is Julie D from Jabbering with Julie, and I have a guest today. I'm so excited. Susan Eileen. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are. That is my pen name. And there's a certain level of anonymity in recovery. So I didn't want to use my full legal name.
Right.
Also, to quote like a Seinfeld episode, I didn't want my worlds colliding between my regular job and my writing job. So,
Right. Smart.
yes.
So
What?
why don't you tell everybody why you're here?
Well, I have written a book called The Dictionary of Missing Time, and it talks about various struggles that I've had with addiction, mental health issues, which are often intertwined. The number one underlying condition for addiction is unresolved trauma, followed by bipolar and borderline personality disorder. So typically, if you have an addiction problem, you more than likely have an undiagnosed mental health issue. So I share my mental health struggles. I share my toxic relationship struggles. And then there's even like some financial advice in there from how I turned my finances around in sobriety. So it's about my journey from rock bottom onward up. So it's supposed to give people inspiration that if you are in addiction, that this is how you can turn your life around. And if you are newly sober, it would give you a guide as to what to expect in the early days of sobriety.
Now, isn't it difficult going into holidays, dealing with maybe being invited to parties and you're trying to stay sober, and then everybody's like, Christmas ale?
Yeah, and I would say in early sobriety, you tend to avoid those type of parties, or you just do an Irish goodbye, where if you're feeling uncomfortable, you just really slip out and don't really tell people why. If you are sober curious and thinking about doing dry January, most people wait till after the holidays to wait to try to get sober because of that very issue.
Tell us about dry January.
So, Dry January is a movement that's gaining momentum where people try to go the entire month because often people are maybe gray area drinkers, which means you're not quite a social drinker and you're not quite in active addiction. So, you could do Dry January just to try to redefine your relationship with alcohol. And when it's over with, try more mindful drinking where you might substitute cups of tea after you've had a couple of glasses of wine, but just mindfulness has been a big movement. So, mindful drinking is also gaining popularity for those gray area drinkers. And for people that are looking into sobriety, it's just a good way to kick off. There's a lot of social media content to guide you through Dry January, including my social media content. And I can be found on TikTok under Sober Queen of Hearts and on Instagram under also Sober Queen of Hearts, Susan Eileen on Facebook.
Wow, what a journey you've been on. How long did this story arc, last? This
This story arc started with my about 6 months before I hit rock bottom and went through actually the end of 2023. So it was about 6 months at rock bottom and then about 3 years of recovery.
wow.
So it was my trip down and then the upward trajectory once I started. And that's where it could provide inspiration. People often feel like getting sober may not change anything, their problems aren't going away. And realistically, many problems won't go away, but you'll now have the tools to deal with them. You're still going to get a flat tire. You still may be a few days late on a bill and get a late payment, and you learn to live life on life's terms. But in sobriety, you actually are solving your problems, whereas in active addiction, you're avoiding them.
Wow. What do you say for people that let's say they're on the road to sobriety and they're doing great. And suddenly there's a major life event like a parent passes away or somebody very close to them passes away. What tools can they do to navigate that?
Well, these books support my self-employment business, my small business with Joe Panito. And we have a 5-tier program to help guide you through your sobriety journey. So you would refer to the program, you would phone some part of your sober network, you might go on TikTok live and join one of our meetings. So you have a lot of tools in your toolbox, and they say that no man is an island. So during those times, our instinct is to isolate, and actually isolation is really bad for early recovery. So we encourage developing hobbies. Again, the hobbies promote mindfulness as well as something to give your hands to do. If you're in active addiction, your hands are going up to your mouth for your drink or whatever your addiction of choice is, but you need to fill that time in order to be successful.
Like I know, for example, some people like, exercise, they say that's really good, as well as the hobbies. Now, you mentioned the TikTok live. Is there a certain hashtag people should search for?
No, if you go to Sober Queen of Hearts, I advertise when my lives are,
Okay.
and then you will just get a notification that I'm having a live, and then you press something on your screen to join it.
Right. How often do you do that?
We took a pause from it, but we will be starting it back up in dry January.
Yeah, I think people are definitely going to need you then, that's for sure.
Yes, yes. And, it is a time for New Year's resolutions or New Year's intentions. And you have to be very intentional about getting healthy. We don't get healthy just by accident. We have to be intentional about that.
Well, why don't you give us a little excerpt from your book
Okay, so
and
the
give us the
reason why
title again?
Okay. So the reason why it's called the Dictionary of Missing Time is one of my unusual hobbies is I have a personal slang dictionary and the website is metropolitanjargon.com. So the chapter titles are all slang terms that come from my personal dictionary. So this excerpt, this title is called a reverse Kafka, and it's an allusion to the short story by Frank Kafka called The Metamorphosis, in which the character hits rock bottom. So a reverse Kafka is coming out of rock bottom. And the definition is when someone gets their life together, for example, what happens after you get sober, the opposite of what happened in the Metamorphosis by Frank Kafka. And an example of usage is Rose is in recovery now, and during the last election was voted in as city council member. She pulled a reverse Kafka. So each chapter has a slang term, and that sort of is an overview of what you're going to see in the chapter. When I was writing this book, one thing that I didn't like about the new books coming out is there's no table of contents anymore. And I think novice readers like tables of contents. And especially these excerpts, a counter creeper is another one. And that is a person that just sits at the bar for hours and hours and hours and tries talking to everybody that comes up. And so that chapter is about when my addiction advanced and I was just sitting at the bar for 6 hours after encountering some trauma in my life. So my underlying condition is PTSD, and I didn't even know I had it. I knew I was uncomfortable and I was self medicating. But you can't really get diagnosed in active addiction because the addiction is masking your problems. So you need to get sober, work with a doctor and a therapist, as well as embrace recovery to really ensure success.
Wow, I can't even imagine all the things that you've dealt with, but it's got to be make you feel good to like work with people and help them.
Yes, and because addiction does lead to jails, hospitals, and death, Currently, only about 8% of people get out alive. So, and I'm going to choke up here because it's really like surviving stage 4 cancer to get a new lease on life. And now I have a beautiful middle class life, which is very different from rock bottom. Life is definitely more comfortable in the middle class. I have plenty of food in my refrigerator. My bills aren't late. It's a different quality of people, a different orbit of existence, if you will. And life is just much more enjoyable. I feel like I wake up like Snow White every day, like it's a beautiful day and let's open the curtains and take on the day.
Now, for people that are still at rock bottom, they may not think that it's achievable, but they could get inspired by your story. It's like, well, if she did it, I could do it.
Well, and if I by the end was a 24/7 user, I would wake up and start doing shots in the morning. And my rock bottom was pretty bad. My health problems were pretty bad. I was having seizures from excessive alcohol consumption, was hospitalized many times. And if I can do it, if I was a 24/7 user, I even kept a beer bottle on my bedside table in case I woke up in the middle of the night. I would have something to drink before I went back to sleep. It was really bad. So if I was that bad and could get sober, anybody can get sober.
Well, it sounded like you had a couple. I mean, obviously, you said you were hospitalized several times. Sounds like you were really touching bottom quite often. What was the final straw?
The final straw was getting arrested. And I actually managed to get arrested while I had an ankle bracelet on. So I was on probation and still bought some things off the party favors off the street. And the cop followed me home and arrested me. Little did I know that this particular distributor was being watched by the police. So I was arrested, and while I was in the police station, they were talking about if I would get arrested for a felony or a misdemeanor. And I don't know if they were playing good cop, bad cop, or if I was really looking at a felony. But either way, as soon as I heard felony, I got scared straight. I thought, how low have you gone that you're seizing, you're getting arrested for the second time? You've been to the hospital like 8 times. Like, enough is enough. So I threw a Hail Mary pass to God, said, if you get me out of this, I don't know how I'll pay you back, but I will. And so now I feel like these books are part of the payback because I'm trying to show people that there is another way. Our community, if you just look at the news and Facebook, our community is in the throes of a humanitarian crisis between the mental health issues, the money problems, and the addiction issues. And I just feel like this is a way to give back to the community.
Now, would you say it's really difficult, let's say if you're a family or a friend seeing someone going through this and, trying to have some kind of intervention and tell them to wake up, but it's until that person really feels like, oh, I need to make a change, nothing is going to change.
Yeah, you have to do it for yourself. Getting sober for your mom or your spouse or your job or just for the money or whatever it is. You have to do it for your health. Any other external extrinsic motivator just doesn't work. It needs to come from within. And your family, by the end, you're very lonely because you don't realize it, but you're very toxic in active addiction, and your family and friends don't want to be around you. The only people that really want to be around you are the other toxic people in active addiction.
Yeah, and they probably don't want you to get better because that means
Oh,
there's
they
something
don't.
wrong with them.
Well, and they don't want to lose their drinking buddy. I mean, realistically, nobody likes to drink alone either. So I had to leave behind. Not everybody is going to go on the journey with you, and you're going to have to leave a lot of friends behind. And that can be a very rough process, but again, Embrace Recovery helps guide you through all of that.
Yeah, what if there's someone like even in your house, like a family member, and you're both buddies drinking and everything, and then one of you decides to get sober. That must be a very difficult situation.
That's why there are a lot of sober living facilities, and you would be able to go there. There's grants available for those sober living facilities, or often they don't make you pay rent until like the third month when you've gone back to work. So there are a lot of resources available. People just don't know where to find them. And again, that's where Coach Joe and I end up helping you find those resources.
Is there anything that you want to tell people before we say goodbye? Something that we
Life is
mentioned?
fan- Life is fantastic on the other side. Pick up a copy of my book. You will see my reverse Kafka, how much I've come out of rock bottom, and I hope it inspires you to get out of rock bottom as well.
Yeah,
Don't you want vacations again and things like that?
someone once told me that you're not when you spiral, you don't spiral down, you spiral up because you're transitioning.
Yes, you do. Instead of spinning in circles in rock
Mm-hmm.
bottom, you spiral up with all your progress.
Yes, I think that is a great visual of
Yeah, yeah. Rather spiral up than spiral down.
yes, yes.
The
Well, I'm
trip
so glad
down
to
is rough.
reconnect with you. We haven't chatted for a while. You'll have to let me know maybe at the end of dry January, let me know how it went and how many people reached out to you.
Yes, yes. I hope to talk to you soon.
All right. Well, take care and enjoy the holidays coming up now that you have a new lease on life.
Yes, yes. I have a grandbaby. My first grandbaby is coming. So there will be a baby,
Congratulations.
yeah, for the holidays. So just in time, and it's going to be the best Christmas ever. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, enjoy and thank you for talking with us today.
All right. Thank you for having me.